allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Albertson.
Here.
Bueller. Absent. Hoyer.
Here.
Poleen.
Here.
Lallam.
Here.
Manti.
Here.
Rademski.
Here.
Roby.
Here.
Vilhauer.
Here.
Y. Absent.
Present.
Oh,
Okay.
present.
Very good. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is public input. This is a time reserved for anyone who would like to make a public comment to step forward and do so. See no one, will move on. Item 5 is approval of the agenda. Have a motion by Vilhauer and a second by Lallam. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Item 6 is the regular agenda, and item A is approval of resolution number 20-15 declaring an emergency to address the threat of COVID-19.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Lallam and a second by Hoyer. And I would just like to point out that this resolution is unfortunately something we need to do because of the threat of the pandemic that we're currently experiencing. We know we have a positive test result somewhere in Cottington County, and so now is the time to do this. So does anybody have any questions or comments about this? Councilman Lallam?
So on this, we do not have an end date on this, obviously, because we don't know when this will go through. Matt, is this one of those that it'll go until we take it off, or will it just go until we, either the WHO or the, federal government decides that we are past that?
You know, I should have asked the city attorney, Matt Roby, to go ahead and tell us a little about the resolution, so that would have become apparent. So Matt, why don't you just explain a little bit more detail about the resolution, please?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Well, I guess just to answer Councilman Lallam's question first, with the uncertainty about how long this status will last, we would intend to bring back a resolution at some point in the future to officially declare this to be concluded. But to describe the resolution as a whole, essentially it just declares that there is a public health emergency in the city of Watertown, consistent with the declarations that have been made at the federal and state and worldwide levels. It cites the statute 932.1 that provides that we do have authority to do what's expedient for the promotion of public health or the suppression of disease. Under the enacting clause there, it provides that the mayor can make some temporary suspensions to the personnel policy, and essentially what that's getting at is that there's going to be some work from home type of things allowed, I guess, as this situation kind of develops further. So it's just allowing the mayor some flexibility with the current personnel policy to make sure that we can continue to operate safely and for the protection of our employees. It also states that the city buildings shall be closed to the public, but alternative arrangements shall be made where possible, allowing the public to continue the transaction of city business. That was already stated by the mayor yesterday. This is just formalizing it. It provides that arrangements shall be made going forward during this period to provide for the electronic and telephone abilities to attend meetings for the members of the boards, staff, the general public, and the media. And it also encourages the private and nonprofit organizations as well as the citizens at large to strongly encourages them to follow the CDC recommendations and guidelines related to the COVID-19 outbreak. Now, we heard this morning with the governor's press conference that she is preparing some sort of executive action to be issued later today. It sounds like that may may have some effects on other aspects of this. But any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Councilman Vilhauer?
Just one initially, I believe we have Steve Lehner from the Utility Department on the phone. Does this apply to the Utility Department as well? Does the mayor have authority to address that as well?
Actually, they were already closed to the public before I made this, before I closed the public buildings. So I'm assuming it would apply because the city buildings are all city buildings and municipal utility buildings are city buildings. So, but there's no further thing that they would have to do because of this. They've already taken that action themselves. Do we have, Councilman Hoyer?
So the only thing I would toss out, as of right now, the way we have this written, it's just suggesting that you follow CDC guidelines. We're not even saying what those are. Can we enlighten the public a little bit of what the CDC is putting out at this time?
Sure. And I will say there's a Facebook site which you can get to through the police department or through the mayor's page to see what the city is doing. We have a COVID 2020 page on there, and unfortunately we use the word COVID in the name and Facebook doesn't allow you to search for it, so you have to go through the police department, find their page and find the link. But anyway, we're working on that and try to make it better. The CDC guidelines are the things that the governor's been saying over and over, and that I've been saying as well in daily briefings. It's good hygiene. Wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Good housekeeping. Keep surfaces disinfected, especially things that get touched frequently by numerous people, like doorknobs. But anything that countertops that where people may touch or be near, need to keep those things disinfected regularly, numerous times a day. Also, appropriate social distancing. Stand at least 6 feet apart from other people. Do not congregate in groups. And the CDC guidelines are much greater than what the president has asked us to do. The CDC says 50 gatherings of 50 people or more should be avoided unless you can exhibit the appropriate behaviors of hand washing, social distance, and keeping surfaces disinfected. The president has said gatherings of 10 or more. So wherever possible. And it doesn't ban congregations of people. It says avoid groupings that exceed that number or where you cannot exercise the appropriate housekeeping and hygiene behaviors. So we're all working on that as well. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay. It's pretty simple. We can all do these things, and many people are. There's a good majority of people that are making a pretty strong effort to comply with the CDC guidelines. Councilman Hoyer?
So one other note that gets mentioned on the CDC is if you identify a case, inform people who might have been exposed. Are we doing that?
Yes, to my knowledge. Now, I personally don't know. That's information that is only privy to the doctor
Correct.
and the lab. So yes, I know they're following the practices and there's a protocol, and that is being followed very carefully by the healthcare officials. Councilman Vilhauer?
I think now that it's hit a lot closer to home here, we're already starting to get comments, and I know it's been going across the state for quite some time, as far as ordering a shutdown of specifically bars and restaurant. Where do we stand as far as whether it be the governor at the state level or you as mayor at the local level, as far as having the authority to do that if it does come to that?
Okay, there is a group of South Dakota mayors that had a conference call last week, and there will be another conference call today, this afternoon, that I plan to participate in, and the city attorney participated last week and will participate again. The governor has also been in on that call and will participate in some form today, but she has maintained that it is not the state's place to order businesses closed, that would be community by the mayor. And the mayors in this state are not in agreement on what is the appropriate action to take. And I hear both sides of it. I think that having a case in our county changes things, and it changes things for our whole state when we first get notice that we have community spread. And that hasn't happened yet, but we're aware that it is bound to happen. It's probably going to happen and happen very soon all over the state. So we are talking to each other and trying to decide what is right. Should we put the health of our citizens ahead of the rights of government to interfere? That's really what the argument is. And so it's very near and dear to every single mayor. Every single mayor in the state wants to do the right thing. And it's just trying to decide what that is and take the appropriate action. Councilman Hoyer?
I'm going to say this not to spook people, but just putting facts out there. So this comes from the CDC, but fatality rates for this disease, if it picks up in your area and it starts infecting, if you're over 85 years old, it's 10 to 27% fatality. If you're 65 to 84, 3 to 11%. 55 to 64, it's 1 to 3%. 20 to 54, less than 1%. Less than 19, it's 0. So looking at our numbers in our community and treating like this, because it's in the county now, we've kind of been pumping the brakes on a lot of actions that we've taken because we've been waiting for, it hasn't gotten to the county, it hasn't gotten into our community. So I know that a lot of us realize this, but the weight and severity of this thing, if it picks up, which it's an exponential virus, once it gets a foothold and starts going, it's pretty hard to contain, and it's likely that it'll come through eventually. And of course, we're trying to flatten the curve and everything so we can handle it in our local facilities. But just knowing that those numbers, those percentages, those are people. Those are people that won't come through it. And personally, for me, looking at this and looking at the steps we take going ahead, I don't want to be looking back going, I didn't do enough when I could have. And telling people that that person's not around right now because I didn't do enough.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate that. And the last thing I want to do is panic people, because there's no need for panic here. The right thing to do is for our entire community to participate in the safeguards that are out there. We can control the spread, but it requires cooperation from everyone. Employers, businesses, everyone. Every single one of us can make a difference. And I don't want people to think, well, it negates what I'm trying to do if they don't do it. That's not true. Every little bit helps to lower that curve and push it further out to where our healthcare providers can manage it. What we don't want is the big peak all at once where we'll have to make difficult decisions about who gets care and who does not. So by everyone cooperating, we will be able to manage this. And there are communities that have managed it. So that's what we're doing moving forward. Councilman Vilhauer?
Mayor, I don't want to disrespect what you just said a couple minutes ago, but you never answered my question. I guess I'll ask a question of our city attorney as far as the authority. I mean, you give a very good answer, but you didn't answer my question as far as if mayors or the governor has the authority to actually order businesses to shut down. So I guess I direct that to you, Matt.
Well, I'm going to punt on the governor's authority. She has very qualified legal experts advising her, and she has come to the conclusion, I believe, at the moment that that authority is murky at best. I will say this: the statute that we cited in this resolution is very vague and open-ended, and the semi-consensus of some city attorneys around the state is that statute would potentially give us the authority to do that type of action. Other communities have taken that action now. And so it's an untested theory, but in times of emergency, we may need to rely on that vague statute to take action if that's the way that the city decides to go.
Councilman Lowell? Sorry.
Sorry, Glenn, did you have something follow up on that?
Well, just to follow up, I mean, if we were to, if we're to test it and have the mayor take that action, does that have to come back before us as a council to authorize her to do that? I mean, if that's the case, I don't want to be, having another day or two lapse before we call a meeting. I mean, can we tweak this to give the mayor that authority ahead of time in case she needs to act on this?
Yes, you could certainly make a motion to amend the resolution that would give the mayor the authority to do that if the council were to choose that route. The other option is to call an emergency meeting and give as much notice as best we can, trying to meet the 24-hour requirements. But again, given that this, the situation, if it's 20 hours, we may have to just run with it and have a meeting. So that would certainly be an option to give that mayor that authority, or we could call a special meeting if something comes up.
What do you feel about that, Mayor?
Well, I want to be mindful of what the experts are telling me, which is it's more than just a business proposition. If we close the businesses, the financial impact to families who lose their homes, can't put food on the table, are tremendous. We can expect to see a rise in suicide and other side effects that we don't want. Violence. It's just not necessarily the right thing to do, and I want to balance that decision. I want to hear what the other mayors are grappling with, and we can find communities that are on both sides of this, and so it's a difficult decision to make, and no one is taking it lightly. Councilman Hoyer?
So looking at this, though, some of the difference here is essential versus non-essential. Many of our businesses can still operate in a takeout capacity. You just take away the dining in sort of situation. Yeah, it's pretty hard on some of the bars. I know Brookings has already closed all of theirs. They did that voluntarily. I know for us in our downtown, a lot of us have already had to start layoffs. So that's already happening. If we're worried about that happening, that's already happened for a lot of us. But there's things that we can do as a community to mitigate some of this to the best of our ability, and that's part of coming together as a community to get through it.
Right.
I know this is a day-by-day thing as we go. Sometimes it's hour by hour, but reducing it to essential operations, I mean, that still gives you a lot of leeway with this. If you look at other communities that have done the same things, you can still go to a grocery store, convenience place, warehouse, pharmacies stay open, healthcare stays open, your medical appointments, restaurant for takeout, delivery, or drive-through. You can still take care of a family member, take a walk, ride your bike, hike, jog, be in nature, just be away from people 6 feet. You can walk pets. You can basically do all your normal stuff. If they sell food, they stay open, essentially. So it's just limiting the dining in capability, which most of us are doing already just voluntarily. And then, of course, there's some of us that have gone farther with it. But it's just taking it all into consideration. There's creative solutions here to getting through this. We don't necessarily have to do a shutdown. That's not necessarily what it means. So just knowing the difference between essential versus non-essential, and then kind of the lines between that.
Right. Thank you. Councilman Lallam?
I got a few points here. I understand the financial hardship that comes with it, but the loss of life is something that we cannot, take and put a price on. To Michael's point, a lot of the businesses are already doing that on point anyway. I would rather have the provision in there that the mayor is allowed to do that without having to have a council meeting. I mean, you're still gonna have to make that decision at a certain point, no matter what. Fully support you guys as far as, it's a hard decision. I mean, you're gonna tell people that they can't do their livelihoods, and it's never gonna go over well. But at the same time, sometimes you gotta protect people from themselves. Simply, you'll have people that go out just because they say you can't go out.
Right.
So, those are the things that I would rather see that in that provision, and I can do that. But the thing that we have to realize is this has to be a coordinated effort. It's Cottington County. They're not saying what cities they're in. It has to be whatever we decide needs to be done with cooperation between the county, the city, the surrounding counties, i.e. your, you know, your Castlewoods, your Henry, your Waverly, your Florence. I mean, those are, I mean, you might stop something here, but they could easily go to another community that's within a short distance and try to do the same type of thing. So need to be cognizant of that fact that we have communities that are within close proximity.
Right, and when Brookings closes all of their restaurants and bars, we risk our own county population by the influx of the Brookings citizens
Yeah.
coming to frequent our restaurants and bars, and that point is not lost on me. And it's within our community, we're seeing that already, where the ones that have closed their doors simply push the people that aren't concerned
Somewhere else.
into larger groups in a business that stays open.
The thing that we have to realize that, you know, we still have our city services. We have electricity, we have water, we have garbage, we have grocery stores that are gonna be open. They're gonna do the best they can to make sure that we have the stock that we can. But people have to realize that they gotta be smart in their own aspect as to not bunch up and not go out and buy every single, you know, piece of toilet paper and every hand sanitizer that's out there. I mean, there's people that are gonna need it. You know, make sure that you're checking on your neighbors if they are elderly and they don't want to go out because of it. You know, I know there's people that are making runs for other people. So, I mean, this is a time where, as a community, we can come together and show what makes us a great community of Watertown anyway. But let's make sure that we're smart about it and that we're taking the steps necessary to do that.
Right, and leading by example, obviously, that's what we're doing. We've shut down our revenue source with the wellness center, the zoo, those sort of things, and hopefully others will follow suit. Councilman Vilhauer?
I didn't want to make it sound like that you're operating a vacuum here. It might be helpful to fill in whoever is paying attention to this meeting, what is going on behind the scenes as far as who is working and meeting on a almost hourly basis as far as addressing this. Because like I say, you by no means are the only person involved in this. So why don't you fill us in a little bit as far as who has been meeting and what is being done behind the scenes?
Right, thank you. I was intending to bring that up at a later point, but this is just fine right now. There is an incident command system employed, which is a unified command between the mayor's office, the county, the healthcare providers, including the hospital and the various different clinics, the school district, and all of the first responders, including the emergency management office for the county. Together, we are a unified command system, and roles are defined in numerous different departments which have to do with all facets of managing this incident, which is a pandemic event. And we've been meeting twice a week, but meetings are occurring for smaller portions of the larger group on a more frequent basis, as you referred, and we're in constant communication. And it is my goal to act in concert with the other unified commanders. I am one of the unified commanders in this incident command system. I'm not the only commander. So I like to understand what the others think is the right thing to do and not act unilaterally in, out of sync with that greater group. There are doctors in this group. We have an infectious disease specialist in the group. We have trained public information officers in this group, emergency responders. This community has a concerted group of people dedicated to doing the right thing for our community. And I don't act alone when I speak on behalf of that group. And we've already done one media briefing today, that group has, at 9:30, right after the governor's address, and we'll be doing another one at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And we have a daily briefing for the media at 3 o'clock every weekday, and we can expand that out if we need to, like we did today. So you're right, this is a community effort here that we're making to do the right thing, and I have lots of advisors. As the mayor, I do have extra powers that I can take without consideration of that group's beliefs. But I don't want to, because I think that collectively that group will make a better decision than I will make on my own. And I am getting input from mental health experts as well as doctors and nurses and EMTs, you know, law enforcement officials. Lots and lots of people are making an effort to do the right thing. So it sounds like Councilman Lallam.
If I may, since I made that motion,
Sure.
I would actually make a motion to amend the original motion to give the mayor the emergency right to do it without having to call a special meeting. Is that correct?
Well, it's actually, as I sat here thinking about it, you know, you could give the mayor the authority in this resolution, but if the mayor chooses to go that route, we would still need to come back. There needs to be, the most legally sound way to do this would be to enact an emergency ordinance under our charter. And an ordinance, of course, has penalty provisions, so it has some actual teeth to it. And so the mayor could certainly make a declaration if you give her that authority in this resolution. But in that event, we would still be calling a council meeting to pass an emergency ordinance.
After the fact type of deal?
Yes.
Okay.
If that's what the council would choose. Otherwise, like I said, the other option is to, if it comes up where that's deemed to be the advisable position to take by the city, then we could call an emergency meeting and accomplish it by ordinance that way as well.
I'd rather have it where she can make the motion and we come back essentially and enact it after the fact. That way that it can go into effect and we can, you know, move forward with what we need to, you know, protect the health of our citizens. So.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's have some further discussion. Councilman Vilhauer, were you?
Well, no, I think I got my question answered, because if we're doing it after the fact, my concern was an ordinance that would require two readings and a public hearing, and, you know, that's at least another two to 3 days minimum. But if we're essentially doing this after the fact, I mean, I'm okay with that. Am I understanding you right, Matt?
Yes, it would be an after the fact ordinance that would be codified in order to give whatever the mayor decides by the authority you're giving her some actual teeth to provide us with the protection. Now, there is, kind of interestingly, as an aside, our city charter provides that we can present and approve an emergency ordinance at the same meeting, which is somewhat inconsistent with state law. So that would be another question we'd have to decide how we wanted to move forward with that.
For the sake of argument, I'd rather err on the side of caution versus worrying about the legal ramifications, you know, for not acting.
I agree. Any other discussion?
Mayor, this is Don. It's been a little difficult to pick most of this up. I'd like to have the motion clearly read and identified one more time, please.
The amended motion, Don?
Yes.
I'd make the motion to amend our original resolution 20-15 to include a emergency clause to the mayor that she can declare essentially an emergency without a council action.
You might want to limit that to the non-essential businesses, so we don't, just a suggestion, something to think about, so we don't get a bunch of calls from the manufacturers.
Sure.
Immediately.
To amend it for non-essential businesses.
I think that's important, Matt, because there are certain industries that are going to get designated as essential by the federal government, be it for health or defense purposes. There will be some in Watertown that will get that designation if they haven't already.
As well as banking, you know, food service, or not food service, but grocery stores and things of that nature. I mean, they're already, if you look at the states that have enacted, some state legislature are ready to shut down, you know, travel and things of that nature. They're identifying different areas that need to stay open, and a lot of it is a financial / health and services needs.
Right. Is that clear, Don?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Any other input? Then I will look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. Thank you. The next, yes, Councilman Holeen.
So that was just on the amendment, right? Correct.
Oh, yes, thank you.
So that was just to amend the resolution. Now we're back on conversation
Right.
about the actual resolution
right.
as amended.
Okay, so now,
Matt, can you put something together to revise that? Thank you.
Yes.
so the original motion was made by Lallam and second by Hoyer. Is there any discussion on that motion? All right, then I'll look for action. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion also carries. All right, thank you. Item 7 is old business. Is there any old business?
Mayor,
Yes.
Jason Redenke here. I think let's remind our public to make use of the 211 system.
Yes, we now can dial 211 if we need information about where to go, what to do, and we implemented that on February 11, not a moment too soon. And it's really great that we have the ability to utilize 211 in our county. So this would be wondering where to go to get medical information, or if you have an emergency, you would dial 911. But this is for non-emergency information for our community, and that 211 service is up and running, and they've been fielding lots of calls from people. Councilman Vilhauer?
Mayor, I've got a question. There was some confusion, at least in my mind. There's another announcement now, or another press conference at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Yes.
Is that going to be carried live by all the media outlets? I mean, initially, first couple of days was only on, you had to go on to Facebook to watch it live. Wasn't that correct?
We are live on GovTV and on the city website,
Okay.
and if,
Well, was it on GovTV last week? Because I did not.
the
Oh.
the first one was not, that's why we switched it to City Hall, because we don't have the ability to do GovTV.
I'm looking at Mike Tanner in the audience.
Thursdays live,
Are you going to be carrying them live this afternoon, for example?
Yes.
Is that the plan?
yes.
Okay, so essentially, hopefully, yes?
Well, yeah, I mean, we put the media release out, and we hope the media will participate, but
Okay.
that's up to them.
I guess I would hope that they do.
Yeah. Any other old business? Under new business, this is where I was going to go into some of the things that I mentioned earlier, but also we do have the ability to open an emergency operations center for our unified command, which we probably will be doing very shortly. And that brings us up to a new level. Now, the announcement that we have a positive case in our county changes a lot of things. And I just wanted the public to know every single one of us is doing this for the first time. We've never had this kind of a situation before. And everybody is working together, trying to make the best possible outcome for everyone involved, and I just want people to be reassured that there's no need to panic. We've got this. We'll come through it. We want to come through it the best way possible, though. So I'm urging everyone to take personal responsibility to keep this pandemic down as much as possible. We have some other new business, Councilman Lallam.
I was just gonna, recommend and actually ask for a favor from the community, if they can not spread false information. I mean, we don't need to cause a widespread panic. I mean, if you think you hear something, or the Facebook world went on full on alert, last night evidently. But make sure that we're not passing information on that is going to be harmful to people and or businesses, and make a run on something that we don't need to cause that kind of a panic in our community, or statewide for that matter. I mean, there's enough panic going on anyway. let's be calm, be smart, utilize the golden rule, and evidently we went back to grade school as far as washing your
Right.
hands like
This-
every 20 minutes.
Right. The supply chain is working, and that's not going to be shut down. You will be able to go to the grocery store if you have to. We have delivery service too at our grocery store, so really, probably nobody needs to go to the grocery store.
And utilize the people that are going. I mean, if you have, like I said, if you have neighbors that need supplies, and you know that they're a high risk type of person, talk to your neighbors. Ask if you can pick them up something while you're going.
Right.
I mean, that's the way how you minimize the contact, and you minimize the potential, infections that come with it. So.
Councilman Vilhauer.
And I think as a follow-up to what you just said, Adam, is that's why it's so important that at least locally, that the only authoritative information coming out is what is being presented by what is coming from the Unified Command Team, of which that is the purpose of the daily briefings. So that is the only, locally at least, authoritative information that people should be looking for.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Councilman Hoyer.
I'll just follow up on that too, just to kind of tie back to Adam's point with the panic. The majority of us will be okay through this. The rates that I mentioned earlier with the fatality stuff, I mean, it's 54 and younger, you have less than a 1% chance of this harming you in that way. It's looking after people that need to be looked after. That's where this comes from. The panic thing, I went to Hy-Vee today, eggs returned, there was milk in the aisles. We're not going to run out of food, we're not going to run out of supplies like that. So people, as you're out, understand this isn't a time to be divisive. This isn't a time to be paranoid. It's a time to just be a responsible community and look after one another. We've been through a lot in this state. I mean, depression hit us hard. We've had other events. Spanish flu came through the state. We've had whooping cough. We got through all these things, and we'll continue to get through this, but it's taking the actions we take that set us up success through this. At the same time, though, take it seriously. The numbers you see on TV are not just numbers. Those are people with individual stories who have families. They're actual people. So remember, it's not just a number. Don't make it take an obituary with a picture for it to become real to you. So the social distancing stuff, take it seriously. Everything you do is going to mark how this goes for our community. So it's better to be overcautious with this than the other way. And as for a lot of the financial strain it's going to put on some families, we're going to have to figure that out as a community as we go ahead. I don't know if that goes to looking at utilities and what we need to do to keep things going for people, things like that, but we have city leaders who are looking at all this stuff and looking to take care of people. So don't think that you're being marginalized or forgotten. You're not. So hang in there and we'll continue to get through it.
Thank you.
Small business, I know that the Governor's Office of Economic Development is trying to help with small businesses and keep those afloat as well. So make sure we reach out to those information, and i.e. the development company, I know that they released something here a couple days ago, Chris. For small businesses that are going to get impacted on it, there's going to be people that can't go to work or won't go to work. So make sure that we're helping out. If we can support our local businesses, recommend it. I mean, get food to go. Take out. Be safe, but be smart. If you're going to go out to eat, or you want to get food to go, ask them. I mean, most of them are offering curbside pickup and things of that nature as well. So.
Right, thank you. And there's actually a full subgroup of the Unified Command, which is managing volunteers that are signing up and willing to help and trying to keep that all orderly and organized so that the people who are willing to help can be assigned something to do to help. And if you're able to help, we can sure use you, and that goes for, it doesn't have to be out in the public either. There's probably going to be a big demand on our medical community and our nurses and doctors, and actually we're talking a little bit earlier today about retired medical personnel answering phone calls of people that are and going through their symptoms and helping them decide if they need to see a doctor or not. So, and there wonderful things like this are going on all over. And so if you're willing and able to help in some way, please reach out. Councilman Helene?
Thank you, Mayor. Just piggybacking off of that, where do they contact? Do you have a phone number, a website that people can go to? Just to make it easy, as long as we're doing this public service announcement, make it as easy as possible and tell them exactly where to go and who to call to
Right.
volunteer.
Right, and our COVID Facebook site is intended to be our clearinghouse, but you can contact the mayor's office. I'm getting lots of emails and pushing them out as I get them. I don't have a single number that I can give, but the 211 is taking information down and helping to forward people where they need to go. So you can always call 211 and see where that takes you, if that answers your question. Anything else under new business? Councilman Albertson?
Not anything else. I think the key is that listen to the 3 o'clock news so you get an accurate things what's going on rather than listening to others. I've heard all sorts of things this morning now on what's going on, and I'm saying, where did you hear that? Well, either Facebook or someplace, and it may or may not be, but the real way is to find out from the briefings from the one person that's talking about it or the group, the command group. So, because it does help when you hear the accurate facts rather than get into a panic mode that it's all over in every facility, and it's, which is not true. So I think just to avoid the panic is listen.
Right, and getting out, getting your exercise, getting fresh air, that's important. And be kind to your fellow humans, because everybody's under stress and not knowing what the future will bring. And we know from past experience that we're going to get through this all right, and we just want the best possible outcome that we can.
Mayor, if I could,
Yes.
if you're on Facebook and you want to look it up, it's 2020 Watertown COVID-19 is the site.
But you can't find it by a search, so you have to go, I would say, go through the police department. You can search Watertown Police Department, find their Facebook page, and then the 2020 Watertown COVID.
I just searched Watertown
Is there?
CDC is all I did, and it popped up. So,
Okay,
I mean, you can find it, just make sure it's Watertown, South Dakota.
all right, thank you. Are there any liaison member reports? Any announcements? Councilman Vilhauer?
Actually, can we change subjects, a couple different subjects here? First of all, I know the lake has come up. It's about 10 inches over full now, roughly. Anything probably gotten kind of gone on the back burner the last week or so, but anything to report on the flooding, potential flooding situation?
I can say the weather has been absolutely perfect for us, and we haven't forgotten about the potential for flooding, but we needed the freeze to let the water pass through a little bit and let the levels recede. So as long as we don't have a big rainstorm, we'll be fine. We could have a big rainstorm, though, and we could have another snowstorm. We could have several more snowstorms. We're watching.
Just a comment on that. At the Upper Big Sioux meeting last week, the comment was that the watershed, the moisture in the watershed up north compared to last year at this time is so minimal that's a very good sign for us at this point, that we don't have near as much water coming this way as we did last year at this time.
That is absolutely true. Yes.
And also, one more thing, on a good news, I'm not sure, where is the Strong Towns vote starts again today? Is that still going on?
Starts tomorrow. Strong Towns, the city has advanced to the Final Four in the Strong Towns contest. So tomorrow, a podcast that Councilman Hoyer and I recorded will go live. You can find it by Googling Strongest Town Contest and just look for Watertown and vote for us, because we are a strong town. And here's a perfect example of it. We're coming together. We've had this unified command team for weeks and well in advance of getting action going, and people have already been practicing what we need to do. So vote for Watertown. We are a strong town. Thank you. Councilman Lallam?
with the weather being warmer and things like that, I have seen a few people still out ice fishing that are crazy evidently, but that ice is starting to get pretty dark. Let's be smart on there. I mean, we don't need to have to go fishing somebody out of the lake, because they went out and tried to catch that last perch or walleye. So.
Right, Councilman Albertson?
Maybe a question for Heath. You had mentioned about opening the drains. Is that coming closer now because the weather is getting nicer, and rather than those extra millions of gallons entering into the sewer system?
Yes, thank you, Councilman Albertson. The wastewater superintendent, Mike Berger, will be bringing out a public service announcement regarding that. Likely this week. He's been in communication with the mayor, I believe, through the weekend or late last week, with the anticipation to have a public service announcement out this week. What that will include is a directive for all sump pump flows to be directed out of the sanitary sewer system, whether that be their backyards, whether that be to the front yard, to the curb, but the directive will be to get it out of the sanitary sewer system. And we anticipate that coming in the next couple days here.
Right. We spend millions of dollars treating our waste every year, and when we get groundwater into our sanitary sewer system, it gets treated just like filthy, dirty water, and it's not. It's clean. So let's save ourselves some money and prevent our overflows from happening and backups. We're seeing a huge influx because we've had higher groundwater levels this year than ever before. We're at record levels. So people's sump pumps are going like crazy.
Just that alone, if we would open them, if we'd happen to get a 2-inch rain, would really help, because that water would go into the sump pumps and then back out rather than into
Right.
the system, be that much more again. So it would really help to do that sooner.
That's right. Thank you for bringing that up. Anything else? All right, the next item on the agenda is executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2. And we will have an executive session this afternoon in order to discuss and consult with legal counsel on contractual matters and confidential information for economic development purposes. We do expect the possibility that we will take action upon coming out. So with that, I'll look for a motion. We have a motion by Vilhauer and a second by Hoyer. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion carries. We're in executive session.